If you're a fan of the classic Justice League animated series, then you probably remember hearing comparisons between the show's two-parter, A Better World, from back in Season 2, and 2013's Injustice: Gods Among Us. Both stories feature a misguided alternate version of the Justice League, who take over the planet after Superman is driven to his breaking point and decides to commit murder, but later wind up defeated and sent to prison after the main universe Justice League are brought over and both teams fight it out. However, there are obviously a few notable differences between both universes, with one of the more obvious ones being that the Green Lantern of the Injustice universe, Hal Jordan, eventually swapped out his green ring for a yellow one, while John Stewart, the Justice Lord's Green Lantern, is curiously still rocking a green ring. But why is that exactly? We already know he and his team rule their Earth with an iron fist, and the main universe Batman later confirms that the Justice Lords are totally okay with killing somebody.
They're as strong as we are and just as smart, but they're willing to kill.
Both of which are qualities you'd think would be wildly out of place with the Green Lantern Corps, but are perfectly suited for Sinestro's Yellow Lanterns. Now, to be fair, Sinestro's Yellow Lantern Corps wasn't actually a thing at the time the two-parter aired. This is also why he wears his classic black and blue outfit in the series rather than the yellow and black outfit we see him in nowadays. So it's not like John not wearing a yellow ring in the show is like a weird production error or something like that. But, assuming the show came out a few years later, or Sinestro's Yellow Lanterns debuted in the comics a few years earlier, would this version of John Stewart actually be a serious contender to be a Yellow Lantern? I mean, given everything we know about the Justice Lords universe, it definitely seems like he should be, right? Well, that depends on a couple of things, like whether or not this John actually broke the Green Lantern Oath during his time with the Justice Lords, and whether or not the Guardians of the Universe, the Blue Man group responsible for creating the Green Lantern Corps, would even know about it or be interested in taking his ring away if they did. Now, even though we never really get a lot of specifics on what all the Corps is actually like in the animated universe, if you want a more in-depth breakdown of what they are like, I highly recommend Watchtower Database. I do imagine, though, that they still have to follow a similar set of rules their comic book counterparts also have to follow if they accept one of these spiffy rings. The rules include, but are not limited to, the protection of life, following the orders of the Guardians, complete non-interference with the planet's culture, which does include politically, in case you're wondering, taking no action until something's a proven threat, and restraint of force unless the threat gives no reasonable alternative. Now, sure, all of that sounds like a pretty ironclad case that this John should be a Yellow Lantern, but what if I told you that, technically, he never actually breaks any of these rules?
Why the f*** you lying? Why you always lying?
I mean, we never actually see him kill anybody in the show, and even when he went up against Doomsday, who's very clearly a threat since he started breaking shit the second he touched back down on Earth, John only kinda sorta hit him with a blunt object instead of going for the kill shot immediately, so we know he's still got some restraint. As for that time when he almost stabbed himself in the face when both teams went at it, well, at that point the Justice League was trying to take down the Justice Lords, which would undo everything the Lords had done up till that point, which, from John's perspective, would put people back in harm's way. Plus, he was dealing with an equally powerful Green Lantern in that fight too. Not exactly a lot of wiggle room for restraint if your goal's to continue keeping the peace. Speaking of, the Justice Lords were actually keeping the peace relatively well back on their own world, and probably would have done the same if they had more time in the League's universe. I mean, yeah, freedom of speech and all that's out the window, but if the biggest issues the team faced during that episode were a hurricane and a tiny protest at a college, then I guess you can't say that what they're doing isn't working. And we know their Earth still has a regular government, since it seems like W is still acting president at the start of the episode, so even though the Lords are clearly the ones calling the shots, they really didn't do the same thing Injustice Superman did and completely install a brand new system of government. So politically, everything seems fine too. Of course, having said all that, if the Guardians were following along and checking on John's every move, would they take his ring away anyway? Maybe, but the key word there is if. Generally speaking, the Guardians, in any incarnation, really aren't all that invested in monitoring what all their various lanterns are up to on a day-to-day basis, unless something goes really, really wrong. For example, in the Superman the Animated Series episode In Brightest Day, the Guardians didn't know whether or not Abin Sur was dead until Superman touched his lantern and got teleported to Oa.
Abin Sur?
No, it's the Kryptonian. Unfortunately, your arrival confirms our worst fears.
And even though it would have made way more sense to just call John back to Oa to do their own investigating in the two-part episode in Blackest Night, they still came to speak up for him after he was accused of destroying a planet. I mean, it didn't really help much since he was being tried in this weird Quintesson-style court, but at least they tried.
Has the Imperial Magistrate reached a verdict? I have. Guilty or innocent? Innocent. Feed him to the Sharkticons.
Seriously though, if Earth's usually pretty quiet in the Justice Lord's universe, nobody's trying to expand their reach to any other planets in that universe, and Jon's not outright doing insane shit to people on Earth, it seems like the Guardians would mostly just glance at Earth every so often and be like, oh hey, cool, job well done, or something like that. Honestly, this whole thing's a weird gray area for me, but with everything I've seen and remember from these shows, it does seem perfectly normal for this version of Jon to still be rocking a green ring. Obviously, I could be wrong about something or miss some detail though, so fingers crossed somebody from the Watchtower database channel sees this video and starts dropping some fact checks all over the place. Even if they don't, you should still sub to them anyway, like I said earlier, because that channel's awesome, they make good content, and why not? But anyways guys, that's my take on whether or not the Justice Lord version of Jon Stewart should have been a Yellow Lantern in the DCAU. If you guys agreed with anything I said in this video, or if you have your own thoughts you want to throw out there, then go ahead and let me know in the comments down below. Otherwise, I will see you all next time. Hey, thanks for watching. If you like this video, then go ahead and click that like button, and if you're new, maybe consider clicking that subscribe button too. I've also got links to my Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, and Patreon in the description. You should probably check those out too. And if you want to see more of my content, then you can click the link to my last video. It's right there in the middle of your screen. Alright, and I will see you all next time.